Hey everyone, welcome back to Pop Incursions. I'm Nico and today we are going to break down What If Season 2 Episode 7, What If Hela found the 10 rings. That's Hela, the goddess of death.
Dreaded it.
Oh darling, I'm no ordinary woman. I'm the goddess of death.
I speak for myself. I've been trespassing in this city and on this planet.
Case closed.
Okay. The 9 realms will know freedom. And the cosmos.
We're not busy gaslighting you, they're threatening you with murder. That's what all the podcasts are about.
Avengers!
I'm sorry, my king, but we're out of time. I'm ready to give my closing argument.
It's Shang-Chi.
Higher, further, faster.
That's the sound of lightning.
Exhausted my patience.
I'm a black man carrying the stars and stripes.
So we are continuing our What If Season 2 breakdown and Easter egg videos. I have to say, and if you've been following the channel, you already know, for me, What If Season 2 was amazing and possibly the project I enjoyed the most from last year from Marvel. They've teased us a lot recently about Season 3 and there's a bit of confusion over is it this year, is it next year? Before the finale even came out, they released a scene from an episode of Season 3 with the Red Guardian and Bucky as the Winter Soldier, but only 2 or 3 days ago they released photos from Season 3 and these really made me very excited because we are finally seeing Sam Wilson's Captain America alongside who? Monica Rambeau's Photon. And then we see them in some kind of Transformers-like suits out in the snow. I think the man with the short hair is Bucky because we learned from an interview that Phase Zero did with the producers of What If Season 1 and 2 that they weren't allowed to cover anything in the MCU that hadn't already happened. And these episodes were written years ago during the pandemic. So at that time, when they were writing Season 1 and 2, you know, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier hadn't come out. And that's why we haven't seen too much of Phase 4 and 5 in What If. That is why we haven't really seen Sam Wilson's Captain America, but finally he is here and he's with Monica as Photon. I just pray to God they have Anthony Mackie and Teyonah Parris voicing them. We also saw a photo, and this one really makes me excited, of Bucky as the Winter Soldier, but this Bucky has long hair, and a young Alexei Shostakov's Red Guardian. And the fact we're getting to see a young Red Guardian is really exciting to me. Not gonna lie, he looks quite well in that suit of his. And then one of the photos that I was so happy to see is Bill Foster's Goliath holding up Red Guardian. One of the new characters, and when I say new, characters that we haven't really seen in full action in the MCU yet, Bill Foster's Goliath would be one, because in Ant-Man and the Wasp we only heard of what he and Hank did, we didn't see much. So seeing Bill Foster's Goliath in episode 2 of Season 2 really excited me. So to see him again in Season 3 is so exciting, and with one of the new characters that has also sparked an interest for me, the Red Guardian. And those of you may notice that we have some new things in the background, and while I was in my local comic shop, Forbidden Planet Dublin, I picked up this Marvel logo light. I've been looking at it for a few months going, oh, that'd be so good in the corner. So I'm very happy I got it. And in my local Disney shop, I found a Captain Carter shield, which I was ecstatic to see and very, very happy to get. Now let's get in to What If Hela found the 10 rings. The episode begins with the Watcher narrating, and we can see the fresco that is in the palace on Asgard, depicting Odin and Hela conquering the 9 realms. As a reminder, the 9 realms make up the Yggdrasil, also known as the World Tree, and this is the same tree that inspired Loki to shape the multiverse in Loki Season 2's finale. The first Thor film, Thor actually drew Yggdrasil to explain to Jane Foster where he came from and how the cosmos works. And Dr. Erik Selvig actually drew the Yggdrasil as well in Thor the Dark World while studying the Convergence. The different worlds that make up the 9 realms include Asgard, Midgard, aka Earth, Jotunheim, which is where Loki and the Frost Giants come from, Svartalheim, which is also known as the Dark World, where the Dark Elves come from, Vanaheim, which we visited in Thor the Dark World, Nidavellir, which is the forge that we visited in Avengers Infinity War, where Thor, Groot and Rocket built Stormbreaker, and where Thanos got the Infinity Gauntlet, Muspelheim, which is the world we visited at the beginning of Thor Ragnarok, where Thor was imprisoned by Surtur and his fellow demons, Alfheim, which is also where the Light Elves come from, including Runa the Light Elf, which we met in She-Hulk. And last but not least is Niflheim, which is where Hela battled with the Valkyrie while Odin was trying to contain her. So Niflheim is also known as Hell, with just one L, the Asgardian version of Hell, where Hela was banished. While we saw a similar fresco in Thor Ragnarok which Hela uncovered to show Asgard's true history, this one has some changes and some new images. Some of the changes include Hela now having a halo, and most notably a new image of Odin and Hela battling against the army of the 9 realms, and I believe we can see beings such as the Frost Giants, the Dark Elves, and even some of the army that we saw on Vanaheim. We then witnessed the what-if moment. Instead of imprisoning Hela in hell like in the 616 universe, Odin casts her out just like he did to Thor. Valkyrie described Hela massacring everyone in the palace when she refused to stop her conquering ways, and we can actually see in Heimdall's observatory dead soldiers sprawled across the floor. Hela points out that Odin only raised her to kill and fight, and now, just because he has changed his mind, he wants her to change her entire existence.
It's just rich is all. You wanting me to give up the fight when that's all you ever raised me to do.
Hela throws Mjolnir at Odin, and we know Hela wielded Mjolnir before Thor, but just like Hela did to Thor, Odin breaks Mjolnir, and this could possibly mean that Mjolnir was actually already broken before Thor got it and Odin just fixed it. Odin recites the same words that he did to banish Thor.
I now take from you your power!
In the name of my father and his father before, I Odin the Allfather!
No! I cast you out!
No! And casts Hela out to Midgard, aka Earth. We then see Odin put an incantation onto Hela's crown, just as he did to Mjolnir for Thor.
If he be worthy, he shall possess the power of Thor.
However, this time, instead of the user needing to be worthy, they must know mercy.
Whosoever wears this crown, should she know mercy, shall possess the power of Hela.
We then go to ancient China, where we witness Hela's crown falling from the heavens. Just like S.H.I.E.L.D. investigated Mjolnir, we see Shu Wenwu and the 10 Rings investigate Hela's crown. The Watcher says that Shu Wenwu knows all too well that the most powerful things on Earth often come from beyond, seemingly confirming that the 10 Rings are indeed from space, as was speculated in Shang-Chi and the Legend of the 10 Rings. However, in the film, it's not clearly stated or said for sure. Instead, it's more speculatory, where they say, some say he found them in a crater and others say he found them in a tomb. Just like when Thor went to retrieve Mjolnir, it's raining and there's thunder and lightning as Hela approaches her crown. As the army of the 10 Rings take an offensive stance to Hela, she realizes she's in Midgard and then in Chinese asks them, likely meaning that Odin and the royal family on Asgard can understand and speak all languages of the 9 realms, which is quite nice considering most conquerors don't usually embrace the established culture and often impose their own on them, which is why I'm speaking English, not Irish, and why most of the Americas speak Spanish and Portuguese. Hela says that she does admire a man brave enough to attempt jewelry, but she forgets that her powers have been stripped and is left with egg on her face as she tries to summon her crown.
I'm the goddess of death.
That usually gets a bigger reaction.
The 10 rings then charge towards Hela, and Hela then mocks them by pleading, "Have mercy, I'm just a helpless woman," which is a bit tone deaf considering she was just banished for not having mercy. But the army falls for it, and Hela fights them. Wenwu is impressed by Hela and binds her with the 10 rings. As he does this, Hela can sense that their power does not come from this realm.
That power, it is not of this realm.
Nor are you.
Showing his kind of experience with cosmic items or beings. Wenwu escorts Hela to her crown to see what all the fuss is about. However, no amount of will or strength is enough to lift the crown. And just like we saw with Thor trying to lift Mjolnir in New Mexico, we get a very similar camera shot and a cry that Hela lets out as she tries to lift it up, but no joy. Wenwu and his army brings Hela back to the 10 Rings compound, and Wenwu invites Hela to dinner and asks her to put on a red dress, which, just like Hela, surprised me. It's evident that Wenwu wouldn't say no to Hela being his other half. He looked head over heels when he saw her in that red dress. Wenwu says to Hela, "Your father may have feared the fight in you, but I do not." And just as I was falling for it and they were about to kiss, Hela knocks him unconscious, escapes and flees across the roof towards a full moon. However, this moon is shrouded in green clouds, or clouds that have a green hue, Hela's colour. Hela finds the stables and mounts a horse to escape, but while she's in the stables, she comes across a familiar friend to us, and I was so shocked to see Morris. Morris is a Hundun, which is a mythological creature from Chinese creation myths, and was Trevor Slattery's companion in Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings.
Where's his face?
He's a bit sensitive about that.
Morris accompanies Hela as she flees, and she first suggests that they travel to the Norse country, aka Norway, because they still honour the throne of Asgard, but it would take a year to get there. Morris instead guides Hela to Talo. Naturally, Hela is confused when they arrive at Talo because there's a forest in between, and Hela doesn't know what's on the other side. But when it moves and they enter, Hela realises it's enchanted and she's quite intrigued. Just like in Shang-Chi though, the forest is unforgiving and begins to close behind them quite rapidly, so Hela charges forward on the horse while Morris flaps his little wings, and once they emerge from the forest, we can see directly into Talo. So not only in our MCU was there a forest in between Earth and Talo, there was also a waterfall, but there's no waterfall in this episode. And I think that might suggest that, like Hela, Talo got a lot of unexpected visitors, and the waterfall was a second safeguard to keep people out. Now, when Hela was running through the enchanted forest, she said,
"I've not survived 1,000 years of war to die at the hands of foliage."
and that tells us that she and Odin took over 1,000 years to conquer just 9 realms. Now imagine how long it would take the rest of the cosmos to conquer. We hear a woman whisper Hela, and then Hela is thrown from the horse. Hela then commands them that they show themselves, showing us that Hela's entitlement hasn't gone anywhere. We then see who it is. It's Jiayi, not Yingli, who was the wife to Wenwu and the mother of Shang-Chi and Jiayi. This is probably because it took place many years beforehand. We know that in the current MCU, since Thor has entered it, he's been 1,500 years old. That means this is taking place a minimum that long prior. So it would make sense as to why there's no Yingli or Shang-Chi or Jiayi. However, this does mean that there's a possibility that in our universe, poor Morris was stuck in Ten Rings compound for at least 1,500 years, possibly even more. But thankfully, you know, Shang-Chi, Cate and Trevor brought him home to Talo. We then briefly go to Asgard, where we can see Heimdall losing his ability to see Hela, possibly signifying that Talo is indeed another universe and not technically on Earth, suggesting it's a part of the multiverse. We go back to Talo, and as Hela regains consciousness, she sees a flock of Feng Huangs. These are the fire birds that we saw in Shang-Chi.
Bloody hell. I think those birds are on fire.
They kind of could be attributed to a phoenix as well. And just like Morris the Hundun, Feng Huangs are mythological creatures from Chinese mythology. As seen in Shang-Chi, Talo is home to many Chinese mythological beings. This includes the Chinese guardian lions or imperial guardian lions, as well as the Qilin, which are the hooved chimerical beings, also known as fire-breathing beings, which kind of look like a cross between a dragon and a horse. Jiayi introduces herself as the speaker for the Elder Council of Talo and explains that they are there to protect Earth from threats of the underworld, threats like Hela. However, Hela explains that she means no harm because her quarrel is with a man named Wenwu and her father Odin. And actually, on top of that, he has a new girlfriend, Frigga.
Frigga, she's a dreadful woman. Not really a fan of hers either.
Which is where we learn that Frigga is not Hela's mother, meaning who the hell is Hela's mother and what happened to her, which I really do hope we find out at some stage. Hela invites them in taking up arms in her name. However, when no one is interested, she then asks,
These threats of the underworld you speak of, you wouldn't happen to know of any of them, looking for work?
And then Jiayi gives us a very important and inspirational phrase that will become important for later in the episode.
One cannot fend off darkness with more darkness. Only light.
Hela then asks Jiayi if they would train her in their ways, because what's a better way of securing your mission of protecting Earth from threats of the underworld than recruiting the goddess of death? And of course, Jiayi knows exactly that Hela isn't going to just stand guard like the rest of them, but she still agrees to train Hela, and I believe that she did this because she knew what Hela was truly looking for, but what she truly needed also. We go back to Asgard and we see Heimdall reporting to Odin because he can no longer see Hela. And Odin asks, "You think her dead at the hand of these mortals?" And Heimdall replies, "There is one who is in possession of a great power, 10 rings that could even destroy a god."
Such power indeed exists on Midgard. There's no telling what its people could be capable of.
Odin dresses it up as if he's concerned about their age of peace, when he's really only concerned about someone else having the potential to destroy him and not the other way around. So Odin decides to take action to rid Midgard of such a threat, but under the false worry of fearing Hela dead. While in the throne room, we can see that the throne has a snake's head on either side. And this wasn't there in the 616 version of the throne. This is really giving us a much more volatile and hostile version of Odin compared to the one that we came to know, but also likely suggesting what he was like 1,000 years prior to us meeting him. As Hela's training begins, they witness a member of the Talo practice their Tai Chi and airbending. Hela wants to learn to do that, but not with flowers, with fire or knives on fire. We also see that now Hela is not in the red dress gifted by Wenwu, but now in a teal robe. Jiayi also explains to Hela that she won't be doing the airbending today, but instead practicing the art of breath and meditation. Jiayi explains that Hela already knows how to fight, but that their practice requires a unity of both technique and spirit.
What fun. Now, what about those fire knives?
Just breathe, Hela.
We then see Jiayi introduce Hela to Jiayi, which is the art of making nothing out of something. And we see Jiayi make a lily pad out of a blank piece of paper. Now, this isn't actually Japanese origami, it's actually Chinese paper folding, and there is a difference. While doing laundry, Jiayi tries to get to the root of what is motivating Hela, but more importantly, where this urge for revenge on her father is coming from. Jiayi continues to ask Hela for what? What are you going to do after you seek all your revenge and conquer the cosmos? And why? For what?
Why do you seek to master our practice?
To overthrow Wenwu.
Or what? For what?
And this allows Hela to unlock a childhood memory of her and Fenris, her wolf, but at the time a very cute puppy, were playing, but Odin came along and chained Fenris up. And when she asked her father why,
means you no harm.
Not sure the king must tame for him.
and this was the day that Hela received her crown. And this was the moment then that Hela realized that her whole existence has been according to her father's wants, desire, and control. So when Jiayi asks her finally for what, and Hela replies, freedom from control.
The freedom to choose my own path.
While Hela realizes that her entire existence is according to her father's wants and whims, as we've just witnessed why she's here in the first place, this reminds me of the Loki and Sylvie and their journey that they had to go through with the TVA and the whole idea of free will or predestination. Just a side note, in Hela's childhood memory, she refers to Fenris as a male, wherein R616 Fenris was a female.
Fenris, my darling, what have they done to you?
So, just to point out that change. Now, after Hela realizing the root cause and what she really wants, Jiayi tells Hela,
Now you're ready to begin.
and we see a training montage of her and Hela becomes quite good at it. As Hela is meditating one night, she sees the Bifrost open and travel down from the sky and land only a short distance away. Hela realizes that this is her father, and she heads straight to the armory. Hela selects an armor and a weapon, and as a reminder, all weapons and armor from Talo are imbued with cosmic energy as well as dragon scales, because this is the only thing, for example, that could fend off the Dweller in Darkness, as seen in Shang-Chi, where the modern weapons didn't do anything to them.
Your weapons are useless against them.
Jiayi wonders what Hela is doing, and Hela explains that her father is terrorizing the countryside in her name, and that she must go to stop him. But Jiayi reminds her that the Talo are guardians, not fighters. And Hela says, I think that's the difference between me and you. Without a fight, I'm no one. At the start of this episode, Hela said the exact same phrase of,
Without a fight, I'm no one. Without a fight, I'm no one.
and at the start of the episode when she said it with a kind of positive view on it and an arrogant view, where now she's saying it in almost a remorseful way, thinking I should be more than a fight. Jiayi tells Hela that if she chooses to walk this path, she must walk it alone. And Hela says her path was already picked for her by her father.
And if I ever wish to be free to choose my own, then I must face him.
And if she ever wishes to be free, she must face her father. And you can see in Jiayi that she knows that this is actually the right move for Hela, and say it's, you know, intuition or the powers that the people from Talo have, but I do truly believe that since meeting Hela, Jiayi knew exactly what was going on and exactly what Hela needed to do to overcome that. We then see the forces of Asgard and the Ten Rings battle, and when Hela arrives, Wenwu is very happy to see her again. Hela is now wearing red, but that new armor is bound together by green bamboo, and obviously red is now signifying the new journey, practice and teachings that Hela has gone through, but the green is still that little bit of Hela that makes her her, and that warrior and fighter inside her. And now, almost like a yin and yang, it's all coming together for a positive and healthy outcome rather than too much of one without the other. Hela and Wenwu team up against the Asgardian forces and they hold their ground pretty well. Odin then comes out and asks his daughter to embrace me. We have come far to avenge your name.
When you disappeared from Heimdall's view, we thought the worst.
And Hela knows, just like the rest of us, as Sir Hogan would say,
poppycock.
Because that's not why Odin is here. He didn't come to retrieve Hela, he came for the 10 rings. And Hela even says,
Or if you come for the fancy bracelets.
and Odin actually says the 10 rings do not belong in these primitive hands, possibly suggesting he actually knows about their history and their true power. But also, we know Odin likes to collect powerful and mysterious weapons and artifacts as seen in the weapons vault in Asgard. Odin asks Hela to join him and that they can bring Midgard under their protection, and Hela says no, leave this place and never return. And needless to say, Odin shows his fiery side as expected. Hela then came out and said, you have your throne, so you threw away your sword,
Forgetting that she was your own daughter.
which really describes the situation very well. But you can see that, you know, it has some very traumatizing and hurtful aspects to what's going on here, and basically the true purpose of why she was even there in the first place is to serve her father as his great executioner. But now when it doesn't suit him, oh no, you're a problem, I need to make you go away. Hela explains to Wenwu that they must separate Gungnir from Odin.
We need to separate him from Gungnir.
And I think this is the first time in the MCU has ever actually called Odin's spear its proper name, Gungnir, which does come from Norse mythology. In Norse mythology, it's known for always hitting the target regardless of the skill of the attacker. Needless to say, I'm sure him and Hawkeye would go toe-to-toe pretty well then. Hela and Wenwu then team up against Odin, and this is definitely an epic showdown and definitely something that I think we'd all love to see in live action. Then Odin says, what is this? As in, why are you teaming up with him and fighting against me? And Hela comes out and quotes Jiayi to say,
A wise woman once taught me that darkness cannot fend off darkness, only light.
and then Wenwu says, and we're here to prove her right. And I have to say, they hold up their own pretty well considering they're facing the Allfather and Gungnir. And we see Hela using the practices of Tai Chi airbending that she learned in Talo against Odin. And it's actually that skill that allows her to separate Gungnir from Odin. During the fight, Gungnir accidentally created knives that were on fire, and now finally Hela is able to actually use the fire knives properly with her Tai Chi and airbending, because she has gone through the practices of Talo. She has unified her spirit with the battle essentially, and she's fending off darkness with light, not darkness with more darkness. As Wenwu fights against Odin, he's actually able to stop and hold one of the 10 rings, and you can see this really shocks Wenwu, but this reminds all of us how powerful Odin is as the Allfather, and possibly suggests, again, he has some history or knows about them if he's able to do that. Once Hela is able to separate Gungnir from Odin, this is when Odin gets a face full of 10 rings by Wenwu, which, good shot considering who you're facing. As Odin is on the ground, Hela turns to her father and says, please, let us end this violence once and for all. And this is the moment her crown begins rumbling from the rock. In this moment though, Hela is not on the offense or the defense, and Odin takes advantage of her goodness essentially and grabs her by the throat. While holding Hela by the neck, Odin says, since when does my daughter pass on a chance to end a life? And Hela says,
No god should have dominion over death who has so
and
little
boom,
appreciation
Hela's
for
crown
life.
flies up into the air from the rock and straight onto Hela's head, and it changes colour. This is so powerful then that it knocks Odin to the floor and kind of Wenwu back a bit. Hela is surprised when she sees her new armour is white and silver. Odin gets frustrated and then uses Gungnir to try and shoot a blast towards Hela, but with her new powers and her suit, she's able to actually take Gungnir from Odin, and needless to say, this humbles him a lot. Odin says to Hela, I sent you here to learn and to grow. You even eclipsed my wildest expectations. You eclipsed me. Throne is yours if that is indeed what you want. And Hela replies with,
Only from there can I unmake your empire.
it will take time, eons even, but in the end, the 9 realms will know freedom and the cosmos soon thereafter. And Odin says, whatever happened to you, my once great executioner? And Hela responded,
I gave peace a chance.
Then the Watcher steps in to narrate. There, on an ancient battlefield, a man and a woman, a mortal and a goddess. 10 rings and the armies of Asgard forged an alliance and built an empire that would span the cosmos. Then we see a different planet and we see a young Gamora and Thanos, just like that scene from Avengers Infinity War. And then we see the Bifrost break through 10 rings and the armies of Asgard led by Hela and Wenwu as they come up to battle against Thanos, the Black Order and the Chitauri, no doubt. Then allows us to see Hela in her new armor. Even Gungnir is white now, and she rides on Fenris alongside Wenwu, who is being propelled up by the 10 rings. And who is flying beside them? Little Morris. I think little Morris said, I spent probably 1,000 years in that stable and I'm not about to spend another 1,000 years just in a different stable in Talo. Let's go with my homegirl Hela and we'll kick some Thanos butt. And here we are. I have to say, this is like one of the wildest what ifs, because never in my wildest dreams would I have thought this would be the what if episode about Hela. To think that not only does she go from bad to good, but then she teams up with Wenwu, Morris, the Hundun from Talo, to fight against Thanos and save a young Gamora from being corrupted and brought into a very dark life. And hopefully her parents are now still alive in that universe. So Hela has really gone from the goddess of death to the goddess of light, or maybe the goddess of mercy. We shall see. Goddess of light seems like the most obvious, but for me personally, I like the goddess of mercy more, because that's exactly how she was able to become this new person. And for me, the opposite to death is life. I don't see light as being that, but I can see mercy being that, because in a sense, she's letting them live, even though she could easily just take their life. But I'm sure along the way, we'll eventually get confirmation of exactly what she is the god of. Is she still the goddess of death? Is she the goddess of light? The goddess of mercy? We shall see. So, one of the most epic What If and Hela episodes, and I really loved seeing mindfulness actually being promoted, because mental health is a huge topic and a huge area of concern these days. So to actually see things like mindfulness and not just focusing on the physical but also the mind and the spirit, it was very pro mindfulness, pro mental health, and I think it could definitely relate to a lot of people that too may have experienced things that will remind them, be it mental health, be it, you know, trauma, whether it's in your childhood or not, but situations that will feel similar because, you know, maybe someone imposed something on you or you were made to do something you didn't want to, but through all of this, learn you can overcome it. I think it's a beautiful episode, and I love seeing the world of Talo and Shang-Chi again, considering like Shang-Chi was possibly one of the best new character films after Endgame, and there's no sign of a sequel anytime soon, which is disappointing. And I really hope that we do get to see this version of Hela either in Thor 5 or in Avengers Secret Wars. The one thing I will say though, I'm getting a little bit impatient Funko and Marvel merch for What If Season 2 Funko Pops. I mean, it's over a month now since the first episode was released, and there's still no sign of any What If Season 2 Funko Pops. Keeping in mind, we've seen 2 Echo Pops in that time frame, and we got Loki Pops already, the Marvels Pops already. I think we deserve some What If Season 2 Pops, and I really hope that we could get, you know, one of each different version of Hela, as in the red dress, the teal robe, and then white armor, white and silver armor, and her riding Fenris, like the end shot, or maybe a young her and a puppy Fenris. Like, imagine those pops and pops rides. It will be very cool. And I'd love to get an Odin Funko Pop, because to my knowledge there's only one and it's quite outdated, so to be able to get another one would be very, very cool. That's enough of me yammering on about different things. What are your thoughts? Please, please, please let me know in the comments below or via my socials in the description. I genuinely love being able to discuss everything Marvel with you guys, to be able to talk about theories, debates, the whole lot. What did you think about it? Well, I thought it was this. How would you rank it? It's just celebrating something that we love. I'd also appreciate it if you could give the video a thumbs up and make sure to click that subscribe button for more Marvel and What If videos, and of course more Marvel Funko Pops. I'm Nico for Pop Incursions. See you next time.